Hello, in this video we're going to look at character creation part 3, which is applying your different options to your skeletal mesh. So in this example I've used the n-hance assets, but you should be able to use any other sort of modular character asset packs as well. And what I mean by that actually is basically a blueprint for your character where you're able to customize each individual component, right? So for example, I can change my chest, my braces, my hands, my face, etc. Right? So basically, I'm able to customize different pieces of that character. So the techniques themselves are fairly universal, so they should be quite applicable to even other asset packs. But obviously, if you have used n-hance, I've referenced them throughout this post, so it'll be even more relevant here. So yeah, as usual, I'll include a link in the description for this post, which basically goes step by step on what I had to do in order to achieve this. So do check that out. It does go into quite a bit of detail. This can be quite complex, so it's actually better to look through the document specifically to find the relevant details. But anyway, I'll get started, and I'll probably begin with a very brief demo, but it was included in the overview, so again, very brief. So basically, we have a bunch of options here, and every time we make a modification, you can see that the character is changing we're changing the skeletal mesh and the material based on the options that we have selected. So that's what we're going to be looking at, and yeah, let's get started. So perhaps the first thing is when you create, or rather when you download your asset packs, you're going to get a couple of blueprints. So this is the blueprints that I got. And I started off with this one over here. So what I basically did is make a copy of this and I put it somewhere sensible. So character creation, got a folder for hero. So I made a copy and put it there. I made a couple of other modifications, like I removed the cape, for example, changed a couple of minor things about, but generally stayed consistent. Just customize it as you like, I suppose. Then I didn't need any of these inputs, so I went and deleted them, right? So this is specifically on the blueprint for your character creation, right? So again, making sure you make a copy of it. The next thing is I didn't need the parent class to be character because I'm not going to be moving and stuff. So you can see that in my one, the parent class is skeletal mesh actor. And the way you do that is click file and reparent. So skeletal mesh actor can be found there. So in my event graph, you can see that I don't have any of those inputs, but I do have this piece for handling rotations. So you don't need that in this post. This is covered by, the rotations post, but you will want to do this set master pose. So I believe this was included in the previous versions, so I'm not sure why it's not in this one. But basically, you want to get all of these child components from the viewport, so like your chest, braces, hands, legs, etc. And you want to set the master pose to be the parent component, right? So it's this one over here. So in this case, it's the head. And what that does is it keeps things in sync, right? So whenever you're basically making any modifications, it will keep them in sync to the parent component, right? So otherwise they can go out of sync with animations and stuff. Okay, so once that's done, basically I created a new graph for handling our appearance modification, right? So just click plus there, rename it as you like. And this is what we're going to be looking at today. So just for now, maybe create a new custom event. So custom event, and I called mine resolve all appearance. And don't worry about populating the other things. We just want an entry point at this stage. And what we're going to do is jump into the widget for the character creation, and we're going to want to spawn this skeletal mesh inside the map, right? So in order to get that, so character creation widget character, there's my widget for character creation. And basically inside the constructor, so this is the same blueprints that we worked on in the previous versions. I have a little function, so it's over there. It doesn't have to be in a function, you can inline this, but it basically spawns the actor, right? So spawn actor from class, and just reference the new blueprint that you just copied. And the only real input you need is the location. So the way I got this location is basically, here's my map, there's my camera, I can see where I sort of wanted it. I dropped in a pedestal over here, and I have the location for it, right? So 650 minus 140 minus 10. And all I need to do is just change my Z coordinate to make my character appear a little bit above it, right? So that's what we have here. So 650 minus 140, 0. So that's the starting point for my character. And I'm not going to be moving it. I can rotate it, but I'm not going to be moving it. So That's good. And what I do is I set it up for a local variable. So I promote it to a local variable. And I'll also enable input. So the enabling input is only required for the rotation. So if you're not doing rotation, you can skip that and go straight to the entry from the previous part, which is getting available races, etc. Okay, so once that's done, I'm going to be referencing the update all options that we've created in the previous part as well. So this one resolves hair mesh, hair color, all of this good stuff. And at the end, what we want to add is a new custom event. So again, create a new custom event. And I called it update character appearance struct, and it's referenced over here. So basically, in order to get to this and this, from the race, resolve race and gender, you're going to be calling update all options, which we'll call it. So the same for gender, update all options. But from the other part, so resolve hair mesh, resolve hair color, resolve skin, basically every time you click left or right click, so you're making modifications to the options, after you finished resolving everything, just add the call to update character appearance struct, right? So you'll be able to see I've added this on every single left and right click just at the end of finishing processing all of the data, right? So you can see it's here as well for hair color and meshes as well, right? So update character appearance struct. So just make sure that it's referenced on all of the blueprints which update your options. And what this does is basically it populates the character appearance struct. So what is that structure? Basically, I've created a new helper model, character appearance, and it's just a structure containing all of the options available from your character creation screen. So things like gender, race, gender, hairstyle, hair color, skin color, and facial features. So basically, all of the options from your character creation screen should be referenced in this structure. I've also created an appearance key, which will be used shortly, so I'll reference this in a moment. But basically, the purpose of this event is to populate all of the fields inside this character appearance struct. So you can see me getting the race option with the race index, and getting the value, and setting the race. Then I'm doing the same for gender, updating the gender, hair mesh, hair materials, etc. Right, so there's multiple ways of achieving this. It doesn't have to be in this way. I could have basically put them in line to all of these options. Right, so literally on all the resolvers, I could just add a part to update it here. But I like to keep it separate because, to be honest, for me, it's easier to debug if anything goes wrong, right? It's just easier for me to debug this way. But there's many ways of achieving this, so, choose the method that suits you best. But ultimately, what you're after is populating all of the fields inside this structure, which contains all the details around the character appearance. So once you've populated it, what you want to do is send it over to the hero blueprint, right? So this is the blueprint that we've promoted just a minute ago, and it's inside this BP create character. So what I've done is I've created a new variable over here. So there's appearance struct, and I've made it public, right? So there's the character appearance structure. Make sure it's public, and this will allow us to then set the value from inside the widget. So once this is done, once this is set, you can ask it to resolve all appearance. So this is quite key. Basically, inside the blueprint create character, we just created this custom event to resolve all appearance. And we just need to make sure that all of the required data is available inside this parameter. So once this is done, we can now start creating all of the different pieces or resolvers for each of the components that can be changed, right? So what that means is basically inside this viewport, if I can change my face, I'll need a resolver for the face. If I can change my hair, I need a resolver for my hair. So like each component requires its own resolver. So this does imply that, if you just have two pieces you can change, you just need two resolvers. But if there's 1,000, you're going to need 1,000 resolvers, and it can get really complicated, right? So the more customization you can make, the sort of more complex it becomes, right? Okay, so inside here, we've got resolve all appearance. So maybe just get started with the one. Don't worry about creating all of them at once. It can be a bit overwhelming. So I began with resolving the hair. So this is actually one of the more complex pieces, specifically for n-hance probably. Maybe other ones are not going to have same issues. So I begin with resolve hair mesh. So this is another resolver which evaluates the skeletal mesh. So we need to basically evaluate both the skeletal mesh and the material, and then you combine them and apply them to your actual components. So I created another helper, so it's referenced here. I've put it inside the character folder, so there's a character appearance, and I've created a resolver. Because this will not be used just for character creation, this will be used sort of universally when I'm in a game, right? If I'm changing my items or whatever, I want to have a resolver to resolve the appearance, right? So it's a generic thing. So that's my appearance resolver. And inside here, I've got all of the resolvers for all of the different components, right? So hair, brows, hair color, body materials, face, feet, ears, all of these components, I'll need resolvers for each one. Okay, so they do follow a pattern though, right? So inside the mesh resolvers, I put in a key, so the character appearance. It's not really a key actually at this point, it's just the character appearance. And I'm going to evaluate the appearance key. So what is appearance key? So this is the one I just referenced a moment ago. So if I go here, there's my appearance key. It just has a base key and an item ID. So the reason why it needs both is because if you go into your character, like what can really change the skeletal mesh for your hair or your head even, right? It's going to be the base appearance, so like literally the options that you've chosen, but also the items that you're equipping, right? So if you're wearing a helmet, that will change the way it looks, right? So therefore you need both the base ID and the item that you're currently got equipped. So that's why I've included both of them. Okay, cool. So that's resolve hair mesh. So now you've got yourself the character appearance, you've made the base key, and now you're going to be looking for the hair mesh to load. So this can also be a little bit tricky, but basically when you created the options for your character creation screen, you've got a lot of options here, right? So for example here, create hair meshes, right? So these are the meshes that we've populated inside the create character screen. These were the human readable values, so style 1, style 2, style 3. And the key here was for human male, right? So human male could have 4 different styles. And these are the internal keys that will be pointing to the relevant skeletal mesh that we need to be using, right? So what they need to be as well is unique, right? So for example, here we've got human female and the keys have HF instead of HM. This sort of guarantees that they're going to be unique. And likewise for, the Dark Knight, Undying, whatever we call them, they have, again, unique keys for them as well. So what this means is that inside these hair meshes, we're going to be referencing the keys. So HM hair 1 will literally be pointing to this value over here. So all of the options that you've selected inside this create character options have to have a resolver mapped to them. So it means that HM hair 1 will point to this skeletal mesh. HM hair 2 will point to this skeletal mesh. And that's how we build the resolver, right? So anytime you want to create a new skeletal mesh, you have to add it to the options that are available. And you'll also have to add it to the resolver for this to load. But on the bright side, the blueprint itself doesn't have to change at all, right? Like it's only in the options that are available. Okay, so now you resolve the hair mesh and you get given the skeletal mesh. You just want to take the, there's my component for hair here. You want to take that and you want to basically set the skeletal mesh. So set skeletal mesh, right? So that's how we can override what the skeletal mesh will be. And next we want to resolve the hair color. So this part is a little bit weird for n-hance. I think it's only limited to the hair, so I haven't seen this repeated in other places. But basically, I needed to evaluate 2 different hair materials. And the reason for that is, if we open up the character, so let's find the hair. Right, so for example, here, we've got a material, and the slot name here is mhair1. And basically there's another one, so I think it's this one, for example, which actually has a different slot name, mhair02. And they're basically not compatible, right? So like different material instances will have to be applied to different slots. And at runtime, I don't actually know which one will be applied to which one. And I don't want to add this knowledge into the blueprint. So basically, I evaluate both of them. And so let's have a look. I basically evaluate both of them and I say, just set it to the slot name. If it doesn't exist, fine, that's good, ignore it. And set this one to slot name too. And if it's required, if it's like supposed to be set, then it will. Otherwise, it will ignore it. So it does have the intended behavior, but it is a bit odd, right? Like it's just a little bit weird. I'm not entirely sure why that was done, whether it was sort of intentional or not, but this is the workaround for it. So this does work quite well, but it was a little bit weird, basically, yeah. So part of that, next I evaluate the brow mesh, which is using the sort of same techniques. Set skeletal mesh, so the brows belong in facials 01, and then I resolve the brow color. And the color is exactly the same as the hair color, so or rather like it's based off the same appearance key. But then the material are basically different set of materials, but you know they follow the same pattern. So I have blonde, you know, for both the hair and the brows. Okay, cool. So now we basically set all of the values there, and we can go on to the next pieces. So now finished with the hair, we can do resolve face. So okay, the face is actually over here. Well, we actually resolve all of them, right? So we can have a brief look into all of them, but they generally stay consistent, right? So if the values exist, so the beard, for example, is only valid for males, but we don't specify whether it's male or female. We just include all of the keys that are available. So for example, HM facial features 1 actually means no beard, right? So it will clear the beard out for you. And then HM facial feature 2 will load this beard, right? And females don't have one, so again, it's not going to do anything there, or it's going to clear it out, right? Cool. So now we've loaded the facial features, and again, we call the resolve brow color. And this is basically, this could probably be refactored, but it should be the same thing, which is over here. Yeah, facial features, same color as hair. Resolving face. So I've only got two faces, right? So one of them is for male, one of them is for female. So that's one of the reasons I pass in the key. If this ever changes, I don't need to change too many blueprints. In fact, I only have to change the resolver. But here I just extract the gender and I say, what is the gender? If it's M, load this. If it's F, load that, right? It's quite simple. So instead of putting this logic in blueprints, it's hidden in maps, I suppose, right, in your data structures. So that makes it a lot sort of better and neater to work with. And in terms of materials, this is also relatively straightforward. It's basically loading all of the materials into here. And again, so the input is the character appearance, but the output is the material instance. So again, we break the character appearance, we get the skin color, and that's how we map it, right? So here you can see HM body 1 will load this material. So still relatively straightforward for face and ears and stuff, because the ears will follow the exact same thing. Now, where it gets a little bit more complicated, so the meshes are generally the same pattern throughout, right? So you can see here it's exactly the same, whether it's based on gender or appearance key, is generally straightforward. But the part which is a bit more complicated is the material. So what I needed to do is create a new material instance from this object and load it in. What this means is that I created a material instance dynamic. So there's my material instance, and I will overwrite particular values from this material instance based on the value. So if I probably open up a material instance first. So let's have a look. So this is an example of a material instance for the body. So, okay, let's just load one of these. So you can see it has a lot of texture maps. So this actually means that we're loading many different things inside the one material instance. So we're loading the clothes colors, the chest base color, it even includes things like gloves, pants, underwear. So all of this information is sort of encapsulated inside the one material instance. And we might be only modifying particular texture maps every time we make a modification. So in this case, we're only modifying one of these chest texture maps. So if we can probably close this now. So if we go back to appearance modification, so we set the material by name here, so embody, and probably worth showing it again. So if you open up the skeletal mesh, it will actually tell you what's the slot name. So this is quite important as well, by the way. Again, this is documented inside the blog post, and you know, like this is quite important. So do make sure that it's relevant to your ones. But that's how you basically get the name for the resolver. So if I go back here, material slot name, that's how you need to make sure that this matches basically. But in terms of resolving the body material, you see resolve feet. So if I go into here, I get the appearance key, I get the material instance and set it locally. And then I break the material, the appearance key. I find the texture map that I care about. So like I put all of the different texture maps available and I set it to the body D. So that's the, so this part is a little bit complex. So I do want to, so if I just open up one of these. So you see there's a body D. So this body D will actually reflect the body skin color. Now, we're not going to be changing any of the items part of the create character screen, so we don't need to worry about too much else, right? So we're not going to be changing gloves, for instance, right? But we will have to do that later when, you know, basically the character will go inside the world and want to equip new items. We have to be modifying these texture maps. So that's where the items will come in play as well. So this definitely will be growing quite significantly, like these resolvers. But in the meantime, you know, and this is seen because like when I'm making the appearance key, I'm not actually setting the item ID, for example, right? So like it's never used yet. But I will have to basically add a lot of values into here for the different options that may come to be. So this is where it gets a bit complicated. I would basically advise to have a look at the blog post on this area because this can be complicated. Any questions, do let me know. It's probably better for me to update the documentation if there's anything missed. But yeah, this part can be a little bit confusing and difficult to get started with. So like I know it took me a little bit of time to understand it as well. So that's how we basically modify the body material. So it's not as straightforward as just finding the material that you want. You'll have to basically be modifying particular texture maps from within the material and then setting that material onto the object. And that's basically what we have here. So you resolve the feet, you get the appearance structure, you set the material instance there, and you get out the material, and then you say, you know, set the feet to this material, okay? And that's how we basically update all of these materials. And it's in the exact same way for like chest, for example. You can see that these blueprints are actually the same, but obviously the component here instead of feet is the chest, right? So it is following the same techniques. So once you sort of get one or two of them done, it will basically be the same. Obviously the hair was a bit of an exception because you got two materials out here. And I think, you know, once we start integrating items and stuff, again, it will change and it'll probably be a bit more complex. But for now, you know, this should do the trick for the character creation. I think that's actually it for now. So yeah, it's fairly like a lot of information. Obviously, any questions, do comment in the description or maybe like put it in the Discord channel as well. And yeah, do have a look at the documentation because like there's a couple of complex pieces around here. And if there's anything missed in the documentation, do let me know and I'll look to update it. But otherwise, thanks and good luck and see you next time.